A little bit of history. In 1964, an advisory committee headed by the U.S. Surgeon General issued a landmark report linking cigarette smoking to lung cancer, heart disease, and other deadly diseases. 1964, that was considered to be breakthrough information, that tobacco actually caused cancer. For decades after that, big tobacco companies denied it. They continued to lie to Congress and to the American people about the products they were selling. Tobacco companies knowingly lied to America when they claimed their products didn't cause cancer and weren't addictive. And they lied when they said they weren't targeting children with their products. We know they lied because a trove of 14 million internal industry documents that finally were made public in 1998 as part of the settlement of a lawsuit in Minnesota showed what the 5 major tobacco companies actually knew when they were making public denials. These same documents provided damning evidence against big tobacco in a historic lawsuit brought by attorneys general of 46 states. Let me read you some of the things that executives of big tobacco said about children and smoking in their own internal memos that they thought would never see the light of day. 1981 report by Philip Morris, creator of the Marlboro Man, said, "The overwhelming majority of smokers first begin to smoke while still in their teens. The smoking patterns of teenagers are particularly important to Philip Morris," end of quote. "The base of our business is the high school student," a 1978 memo from the makers of Newport cigarettes. And this from R.J. Reynolds in 1973, the brains behind the cartoon character Joe Camel. Here's what their document said. "The fragile, developing self-image of the young person needs all the support and enhancement it can get. Smoking may appear to enhance that image." Replacement smokers. Those repugnant words were used by big tobacco executives to describe our kids, America's teenagers. If you can hook them young, you'll have them for life. That was their game plan. All of the tobacco industry's deadly deception about kids and tobaccos was supposed to stop. In 2009, Congress passed a landmark law giving the Food and Drug Administration the clear authority and responsibility to regulate tobacco products. That was something big tobacco had fought for decades, but they lost. The Tobacco Control Act requires tobacco companies to obtain FDA approval for any new tobacco products. In a specific report to discourage young people from smoking, the law also bans most flavored cigarettes because of the clear role in hooking kids. When it comes to traditional cigarettes, we have made amazing strides in the time that I've served in Congress. 20 years ago, 30% of high school kids were smokers of cigarettes. Today, fewer than 5%. But tobacco companies didn't take this lying down. They came up with new products to hook kids. E-cigarettes, vaping, little gadgets that turn nicotine spike liquids into vapor that's inhaled. It's powerful stuff. One pod of vaping liquid can contain as much nicotine as a whole pack of cigarettes. They came up with flavors to entice children. Tell me, they deny it, but you listen to the names of these flavors and see if they were made for kids or adults. Gummy bears, cotton candy, unicorn poop, Fruit Loops, Skittles, Sweet Tarts. Come on, we know what this is all about. They're enticing kids to take up vaping and e-cigarettes, and it worked. Beginning in 2014, e-cigarettes became the most popular tobacco product used by our kids. Today, nearly 30% of all high school students are vaping. The e-cigarette industry is now worth billions of dollars. And who are the biggest players? Hang on tight. Juul is the #1 seller of e-cigarettes. In 2018, Altria, the producer of the tobacco product Marlboros, and the largest seller of traditional cigarettes, bought a 35% stake in Juul. Altria buying 35% of Juul. Vuse is the second biggest e-cigarette on the market. It's made by R.J. Reynolds, the producer of Camel cigarettes, which caused my father's lung cancer. R.J. Reynolds is the second biggest seller of traditional cigarettes. See any patterns here? We all knew that big tobacco would try to find new ways to addict children. on their deadly products. They never quit, which is why the Tobacco Control Act allowed the FDA to establish authority over e-cigarettes. But what we didn't expect was that the Food and Drug Administration would sit back as Big Tobacco dusted off its playbook to ignite, as one former FDA commissioner called, an epidemic of youth vaping in America. For years, teachers warned kids about using Juuls in the classroom. Parents found devices that looked like flash drives for a computer in their kids' backpacks. Even the kids began speaking up about the highly addictive nature of e-cigarettes. Many of us in the Senate demanded that the FDA take action. Senator Murray of Washington, as chair of the HELP committee, has been one of the leaders on this. Countless calls, letters, meetings with FDA commissioners went nowhere. Testimony and alarming data from public health groups and parents yielded no action. The FDA still failed to use its existing statutory authority to police these e-cigarette products, allowing millions of e-cigarettes to flood the market illegally, while their manufacturers made outrageous and substantiated claims downplaying the risk to kids. In 2019, finally, a federal judge stepped in and ordered the FDA to do its job, instructing them to finalize review of e-cigarettes, and remember this date, by September 2021, last September. The FDA's court-ordered deadline to act on pending e-cigarette applications passed 5 months ago. 5 months. Yet incredibly, many of the e-cigarettes that are used mostly by kids, the products that are fueling this epidemic, are still on the market today. The law is clear on this issue. Tobacco companies must prove, they have the burden of proving to the Food and Drug Administration that their product is appropriate for protection of the public health. Why haven't they proved it? Because they can't. There is no evidence of it. So if they can't meet the burden of proof, how do they continue to sell these products on the open market? Meeting that burden was supposed to be a condition precedent, the first thing they had to do to sell these cigarettes. Well, it's because the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, is sitting on its hands, is refusing to use its own legal and statutory authority. Big Tobacco continues to be free to target what they call replacement smokers. Those are our kids they're talking about. The Senate is expected to vote soon on a new FDA commissioner. In determining who that person will be, we have the opportunity. Let me change that. We have the responsibility to make it clear that the FDA has to stop dragging its feet. It must use the authority provided by Congress to prohibit tobacco companies from preying on our kids for profit. As Congress evaluates the nominees, we must be guided by the answer to this question. Do we believe that the incoming FDA leadership will correct the failures that have gone before them in allowing these e-cigarettes to prey on our kids? Yesterday, I spoke to Dr. Califf, who is Joe Biden's nominee to be head of the FDA. I've had serious misgivings about whether he is the right person for the job, but I finally relented yesterday and said, yes, Dr. Califf, I'll support you, but if you make it, I'm going to hold you personally responsible for taking control of this issue. Our kids' lives are at stake. We've waited too long. The FDA is set on its hands when it should be moving to protect our kids. It's long overdue. In the interest of our children, I sincerely hope that the leadership of the FDA will open its eyes and do its duty. I yield the floor.